I have my 7-year-old girls watching.
Welcome to Ray's Talk Show, the talk show that helps hungry professionals escape the cage of an uninspiring career for a life of wealth and personal satisfaction. Thank you so much for joining us. This is your virtual Big Brother Ray Collazo. If you're looking for an online community to support your personal development and truly help you find your voice online to share all the incredible gifts you were meant to with so many more people, you found the right place. Thank you again so much for joining us. This is your thank you so much for joining Ray's Talk Show live on the Blab Boy every Tuesday and Thursday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. And we always appreciate our live Blab viewers. And of course, you can also check out this and every episode of Ray's Talk Show as a podcast. Just subscribe and download Ray's podcast on iTunes or anywhere you can listen to a podcast, or just check out BigBrotherRay.com. That's BigBrotherRay.com. Again, this is your host, Ray Collazo, and we're so excited about this show because the Ray's Talk Show community believes very strongly. All of us have a book in our heart to share with the world. And many of us in our community not only want to write that dream book, but even more fundamentally, we're striving to create an environment for our community and our children where everyone is accepted and honored for their gifts, regardless of the size, color, or in some cases, hair texture. Today's special guest embodies all of those aspirations and is not just aspiring and dreaming, but she's doing something about it, and we love her for it. A great friend to the Ray's Talk Show, Sulma Arzu-Brown. Welcome, Sulma, to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. And for those of us who are up late, thank you.
Yes. And, when Ray, as we used to say back in the days, our posse's thick here at Ray's Talk Show. Yep. And a great friend to the show, a first-time blabber, but she just jumps in. She's got that Dominicana hustler spirit. She's just going to go all the way with it. A great friend to the show, entrepreneur and member of the community, Raquel Bangua. Raquel, welcome to Blab, my friend. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for the invitation. Hello to everyone out there, too.
Yeah, so between these two powerful businesswomen and activists, we're going to have a great show.
Yes, such a pretty smile.
Yeah, no, Raquel's a whirlwind. And again, we thank everybody for joining the show. Let's properly introduce our very special guest. Sulma Arzu-Brown is the author of Bad Hair Does Not Exist, Pelo Malo No Existe, a proud Garifuna woman born in Honduras and raised in New York City, a real New Yorker, no doubt about it. Yes. She has an incredible story. Sulma, you can hear more about in a moment. Sulma has been featured in Black Enterprise and Latin Trends magazine, as well as CNN's Parts Unknown show with Anthony Bourdain, and I definitely want to chat about that at some point. Sulma, again, thank you so much for joining Ray's Talk Show.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me on and really embracing this message and sharing it with the world, which is extremely important to me, and it's exactly why this book was given to me.
Well, Sulma, we're going to talk about everything, and in a moment, Raquel will jump in this conversation, particularly about some of these issues around identity with women of color, and also this concept. She was sharing a beautiful story about her mother earlier. So these conversations that mothers and daughters have about identity and self-love. But before you became a successful activist in New York, now author, and someone that's very well known in the New York business community as well, Sulma Brown, where did this journey begin for you?
Wow, which part, right? Where did
let's start from the beginning. Let's start from Honduras. That's where I want to start.
Well, I am a proud Garifuna woman. I came here at the age of 6, right? And I ended up in the Bronx, New York, right in the South Bronx. I remember just getting off the plane. I believe we were playing Pan Am. Remember Pan Am?
Wow. You're old enough to remember Pan Am? You're a young woman.
We were flying Pan Am, and I know for sure that it was a December because I had just turned 6. And all I remember is those beautiful lights. And I said, wow, the streets must really be paved with gold and diamonds. And it was snowy, it was white, it was gorgeous, right? But little did I know what happened prior to that, right? Why I came here at the age of 6. And I love telling this story because it's so important and it makes me even more grateful. My parents were both college graduates in Honduras, right? And there is a lot of racial divide between the Garifuna people and I'm sorry, that's my dog, the Garifuna people and others, right, in Honduras. So my mom is extremely intelligent, super bright. She's pretty much a genius. So the bank where she worked had a position available for a manager, for a higher up, better pay. And she realized that all these people were getting interviewed and she was getting overlooked, until one day she finally got the courage to go to her boss, which she had a relatively good relationship with, at least in terms of communication. And she was very candid. Listen, I qualify for this position. Why am I not getting considered? So what he basically told her is, Blanca, I'm going to be very, very honest with you. Okay. We cannot hire you because you're Black. And if you have an opportunity to go to the United States, I suggest you take it. But when you take it, don't ever look back. You're extremely intelligent, and I know you'll be very successful in a place that will give you the opportunities, but it's not going to be here. So she made the decision. She and my dad had a really long conversation, and they said, you know what, Blanca, you go first. I'll pack everything up. I'll have the kids go to our village with their grandmother and their godmother, and we'll look to the community to help take care of our children. And then I'll follow you after. To make a long story short, they both came over here. My dad used to work in a bodega sweeping floors, and at nighttime he'd go to school, and so did my mom. They learned the language. They put themselves through college, LaGuardia Community College, and they are not only college graduates in Honduras, but they're also college graduates here. Soon after they were a lot more stable, wow, they called for us, for my brother and I, to come here to the United States, And this story I learned, I want to say maybe about 6 years ago, when I was running the Garifuna Coalition, which is a nonprofit organization directed to help the Garifuna people in New York. I brought my mother in to speak to the youth, and that's when she told the story. So if I had not been in that room, I would never have known that this is what my mom and dad went through. And now having children of my own, I cannot even imagine even having a situation where I would have to sacrifice my kids like that. So I think every day and everything that I do it in gratitude, right? For my parents and for their courage, because, I don't think I'd be able to do that at this point. And that's, that's where.
No, it's amazing that,
Yeah,
that's I often say on Ray's talk show that those kind of stories and that generation is the reason I do the show, is to honor their legacy. I mean, it's, people talk about, wow, you have a day job, you have a family, then you do these shows at night, and you do, you're doing other things to develop your online business and brand. And I'm like, compared to what your parents went through, that's nothing, right? So, we stand on the shoulders of greatness, and particularly the women in our community, particularly the women of color from our communities, they're not given nearly the dignity and the praise by the larger societies, whether it's North American or Latin American, that they did deserve. And I know that Raquel also agrees with that sentiment. Zuma, I want to make sure that, because we like to educate people here on the show, I want to make sure that term Garifuna, most people probably are not familiar with listening to this. So can you explain the distinct community you're from in Honduras and Central America?
Sure. Well, I am a Garifuna, right? Thank you for pronouncing it properly. Garifuna. The accent is on the second syllable. So our people.
There you go.
Thank you. Our people actually hail from the island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines in the Caribbean. And that is where the Arawak Indians, the Yellow Caribs, and the African slaves intermingled, intermarried, and created a new breed of people. And that was the Garifuna people. So what's interesting is that St. Vincent and the Grenadines was the last island in the Caribbean to be colonized, because the Garifuna people fought the British for it. The British really wanted the land because it was so fertile and you could grow so many things on it. But we weren't trying to let it go until the Second Carib War, where they killed our chief, Joseph Chatouillier. So the Garifuna people pretty much waved the white flag. And what was our punishment? To get forcibly deported out of the island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So what happened was that they put us in a nearby island called Balisu. It was a little under 5,000 people. I mean, the British did a really good job at documenting men, women, and children, and it's in the British archives today. So this island called Balisu is still in existence today. And the only thing that can survive there is literally reptiles. All right. So half of my population perished. So we believe that the gold was definitely cultural genocide. But as you know, those times slavery was a very lucrative career, way of making money. So what happened was that they put us in convoy ships, and the goal was slavery. But divine intervention had us end up in an island, now a part of Honduras. It wasn't a part of Honduras back then, called Roatán, the Bay Islands. So we ended up in Roatán, and thank goodness the Spanish at that point were in the coastland, and they let the Garifuna people come inland, right? They left us alone because they were in search of gold, and they had to go higher to the mountains, right? So they had to go to near the capital, Tegucigalpa. So we ended up in the coastline of Honduras, and then we moved from Honduras to Guatemala. We spread to Nicaragua and Belize. And through merchant marines, we ended up here in New York. We've been here since the 1930s. Fast forward, over 200 years later, we have an estimated 250,000 Garifunas living in New York alone. And remember, I told you about only 2,500 survived, right? And now we also live in we live in Texas, New Orleans, Florida, California. So we're all over the place. And the beauty of the Garifuna people is that we still maintain our language, and our culture is pretty much still intact, right? And that's proof that we were not slaves, because the slaves normally take on the language of the master. So we still have our own language. Really, I love sharing.
And what language is that? Is that an African language?
No,
is it a dialect?
It's a combination of Arawak
language?
and the African slaves. I believe it was from Western Africa, and the people the yellow Caribs who lived in St. Vincent. But it was the Garifuna language is predominantly Arawakan, right? Because, the yellow Caribs and the African slaves married the Arawakan women, and who stayed home with the kids? It would be the mother. So that language was passed on. So if you really want to find out what the Arawakan language sounded like you would have to study the Garifuna language, which is the only language on earth at this point that has the remnants of it.
That's fantastic. And I'm going to be going, Zulma, to Curacao this summer with my family, because my brother Michael Collazo, I think you may have met over the years, he lives in North Jersey and works in the city, is getting married there with his fiance. So and they speak Papiamento. Is that the language that they have? Similar history there within a smaller community. But and then of course I got to shout out when we have a Hondureño on the show. I have to shout out my Honduran brother Luis Cerros from San Pedro Sula, who now lives in Miami and very active in politics, who schooled me on some of that history. I didn't know as much, obviously, as you just shared, but so that's he's the one that caught me up on Pedro. So definitely want to. It's a beautiful city. He's often shared with me about it, and he is the number one Catracho soccer fan. That guy. I mean, he stays on top of it. He's quite a sportsman. That guy, a very very good guy and a great friend. And so Zulma. So fast forward, you're an activist in New York City. You're involved in so many things in business and community and cultural stuff, representing the Honduran and Garifuna community in the Bronx, and on television, with your appearance on Anthony Bourdain's show and other programs. So what inspired you to write this book?
My then 3-year-old daughter, her name is Bella Victoria. I remember it, it's so interesting when Bella was born. I feel like this book had been written since I gave birth to her. I remember she had a lot of serious complications when when she was when she was just born, you know, like seizure, like reactions. So she had to go to the NICU and run a whole lot of tests. And one of those tests required, you know, sticking needles in her, and they couldn't really find any veins anymore to, you know, to run some tests. So they had to shave off the side of her hair. And just to try and take some tests. So when my husband and I saw her, we overreacted. I mean, you know, we reacted, I think, like any parent, like, what have you done to our daughter's hair? You know, that's when I think, looking back, when I realized how important hair is in our community and our society. And the doctor said to us at that point, is like, you know, Sulma, we're running some very, very important tests that is pretty much, you know, live or die. You really wanted us to wait for you for approval to see if we can shave the side of her hair? And I'm over here thinking like, whoa, they're right. I'd rather them save my daughter's life than get an approval on whether or not they could shave the side of her head, you know, and worry about what the rest of society would think when I bring a, you know, half-shaven baby's head home. So it started from then, but it's not until the book was written that I really started thinking what the origin of this issue is and how much hair plays a part in our community. When I went, there was a time when I went to pick up Bella from my caregiver's house. And, you know, I always have to say this because it's important. It took us a really long time to find this caregiver, and she is phenomenal. She's excellent. Till this day, we still have a really great relationship. So Bella had taken her hair apart, right? She had the cute little monitos, and she had taken it apart. So when I got to the caregiver, she said, Sulma, tienes que alisarle el pelo a esa niña porque ese es pelo malo, which means, Sulma, you have to relax your daughter's hair because it's bad hair. You know, Bella has always been very, you know, intuitive. She feels things. She's extremely intelligent. So, you know, I looked at her face and I could tell that she was affected, right? And I was affected. And I had two choices. I tell everybody I had two choices. I could react like I think any mother would react, you know, and things will go south really, really fast. But I knew I had respect for this babysitter, and I really loved her and I appreciated her. So I chose to respond from a place of love, right? So I became indignant. I learned that in church years ago, the word indignant, which is a righteous anger. And what I did at that point was tell her, you know, hay pelo corto, hay pelo largo, hay pelo colocho, hay pelo lacio, pero pelo malo no existe. And I just went on with all of these terms, you know, it's just started flowing out of me. And I said, listen, you know, my husband and I were very hard to make sure that our daughters, you know and understand that they're beautiful always, all the time. And I would appreciate it if the values that we instill at home are also carried over here to make sure that their self-esteem, you know, remain elevated. And, you know, I asked her, I said, if it's okay with you, I'd love to do a story time with the kids. And, you know, I would love to do that. And she said, you know what, you're sure, you know, absolutely. She was very open to it. And then she shared something very powerful with me, which I'm grateful to this day. She said, you know, Sulma, my father was an Afro-Latino from Puerto Rico, and he had hair just like you. But the only term my father used to describe his own hair was pelo malo. So that's the term I grew up with, you know. And she said that it was, you know, it wasn't intended to insult. It was just the only term that her own father used. So, you know, it struck up a conversation like, let's do something different. Let's not let this go on. Because if we really think about the term, it's like spitting in somebody's face. You're literally insulting their essence and their roots and everything that makes them who they are, you know. But I didn't go that deep into it, but she understood where we were coming from. I knew a storyteller She gave me some really, great books, and I'm like, but this is not the book, until fast forward like a couple of months later, I started just observing Bella and watching Bella and just seeing how beautiful she is from toe to head. And I said, why would anybody ever label her hair as bad? Like, I just don't get it. And I started writing. I had a paper and a pen in my suitcase, and my hand just started going like the Matrix with the responses that I gave the babysitter that day. So the book was actually written in Spanish first, because my response to the babysitter was in Spanish, and then it was translated to English. And that's pretty much how the book came about. And I knew that I had to write this book because thank God I was there that day. What if those words were to be said, were said to Bella while I wasn't there? Who would defend her? Who would protect her? And what if it was just her and her big sister? How would her big sister defend Bella if I'm not there? So this book, Pelo Malo No Existe, actually gives you really sweet, nice terminologies, to describe different types of hair. And this is, my hair is curly, and this is, my hair is straight. And you have all different body images and sizes, and all girls are super happy. And this was a tool of empowerment, not just for Bella, but for my older daughter, Suleni, to know that she too can protect herself, defend her sister with respect. And that's the key, and to make sure that it's always coming from a place of love.
No, this is so powerful. Want to give a shout out to everyone watching on Blab Live, especially Tatiana, who just showed up. Always appreciate her part of this, and she was picking us up on social media. And Tatiana, I'm glad you're connecting with Sulma Brown and our other great friend Raquel Mangual here. So another one of our hustlers, Raquel. Tatiana holds it down in South Florida. So and she knows where all the papi chulos are hiding in South Beach. Let me tell you.
I know a couple of ladies that would want you to bring them here.
Oh no, Tatiana, she's very friendly. She's definitely someone to know down there. And so this is so powerful because as we often like to say, I've gotten once or twice in my life, Zulma, because I'm very proud of the fact that myself and our immediate family members, this is a subject that's very near to our heart. And they say, "Well, Ralph, you're not black, so why do you care? You're not. We don't consider you Afro-Latino. Like, why do you care?" And I'm like, if you don't care about everything that we are, then you don't care about yourself. And so it's that same argument where people are like, "Well, you're Puerto Rican. Why are you worried about immigration issues?" Or why would non-Latinos be offended by what Trump said about Mexicans? It's like, if you don't care about everybody,
it's about
you don't care about anybody. And so absolutely. And from a Latino perspective, if we don't address these issues head on and have these conversations and utilize these tools, then how are we gonna get over it? This stuff is so insidious. When we have these conversations, then it comes out. Raquel talked to Donna, who was on here, earlier, talked about how, a few generations ago, her family was dealing with interracial issues and breaking up the families in her household 80 years ago. And, my grandfather was the result of an interracial relationship with Puerto Rico. And part of the reason why I don't have a lot of I'm not connected to my extended Collazo family is literally like 80 years ago, my Spaniard great-grandfather basically broke off from the family because he married outside the Spanish community there. I mean, talk about in 1920 or something. So it's like these issues impact us in such a fundamental way. And, it happens all the time. The lightest skinned kid in a Hispanic household is the favorite. The one that has green eyes is considered the good looking one. Eva Longoria. Have you ever heard Eva Longoria talk about her childhood? She went through all these issues because she was the darkest, shortest one. This is the most, and she was considered the ugly one, La Morenita Feita. They used to call her that. And it's like, this is one of the most beautiful women in the world. And all these, we're presented with all these complejos, all this crap. So we got to fight back for it. So we honor you so much, Zulma, for taking the charge. And we're going to find out a little bit more about kind of your process. I wanted to get Raquel in this conversation. And so, Raquel, I know these are issues that, as a businesswoman and as a woman that has a very strong Afro-Latina identity, that and being a Dominicana and a Boricua, these are issues that resonate with you very strongly.
Yes, it's just. Can you guys
Raquel?
hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like what she was talking about when she spoke to the caregiver about how she spoke to her daughter. Those are things that unfortunately I hate to say they just don't stop. I experienced those same things as a child, not so much in my well, not directly with those kind of words in my household, but I still experienced it in my household. And then I'm still experiencing in 2016. I still have people saying to me, "Why don't you relax your hair? Why don't you quote fix your hair?" And it comes from Latinos a lot, it comes from African Americans. And it's unfortunate because there is still this idea that if you are not molded or changed to look like some other ideal,
Mm-hmm.
you're not looking right, you're not looking beautiful. And it's a lot of times it's women that look just like me saying those things to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's
That's
unfortunate
right.
because, you try to have these conversations where you try to remind them, hey, you don't need to change your hair. You don't need to put on the contacts. You don't need to diet. You don't need to do anything. That's the way God made you. But they, for whatever reason, find a reason to try to dispute that, which is even scarier because it's like you don't even see that you're fine just the way you are. You're trying to say that there absolutely needs to be something changed to fit some kind of other, beauty standard, which, is ever changing depending on where you live. So it's like, where does that madness stop? When are people going to start saying, I like what I see in the mirror and this is the way it's going to be? I wish more of our people would do that because our whole group of people, our people, Latinos, would be different. We'd be in a different place, and we'd be in a different place in this country as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
That's right. And this is unfortunately an issue that crosses is a cross cultural problem, right? Because I mean, I was just thinking about it. That I believe Jay-Z mentioned it in a referred to good hair in a lyric in the last 5 or 6 years of one of his songs. I mean, it's still a concept that permeates U.S. North American culture, Latin American culture, and unfortunately something that Afro Latinos are confronted with daily. Zulma, I'm curious, what kind of reaction have you gotten from
Well,
people
it's
from your
been a
book so
sigh
far?
of relief. It's been also people telling me that, wow, I've always known that. Like, I've always said that in my mind, like all the time. Yeah, it's a term that they're not comfortable with. They don't even know if it's okay to defend it. So I think that this book gives them the courage in a really nice way to say, hey, pelo malo no existe, because Sulma said in her book. Have you seen it? So now they have a reference and it's easier for them to
That's
defend
right.
the term once they have a concrete reference. It's interesting also that you mentioned Jay-Z, because now you have his wife Beyonce addressing the fact that Blue Ivy has an afro, right? So because what Beyonce is doing now
That's
is
right.
experiencing that motherhood and the fact that you're going to do everything to defend your child. So
exactly.
when was it, the 2014 or 2015 Grammys, Beyonce had brought Blue Ivy onto the stage, and Blue Ivy had a beautiful afro. I was so inspired. I was so proud of that moment. I even told my children, look, even Beyonce's daughter has an afro. I'm thinking that an entire African American community was going to applaud this. And what do we hear on BET? Why doesn't Beyonce comb her daughter's hair? So despite socioeconomic differences, Beyonce and I going through the same exact thing. And it's real, yeah, and it's a real
Absolutely.
shame that you now have grown adults bullying a 2-year-old. And that is the extreme of what this, of what this subject and what this world is about. That is such an extreme to know that, African American people who should be, I believe, somewhat representing or at least defending a 2-year-old, they fall into the line of work that they're in, which is creating a perception of what beauty should look like. And the person that was saying this was on TV, made over with a weave that wasn't even her hair. You know,
yeah. The what's the actress's name? The African actress that was born in Mexico that won an Oscar or was nominated for an Oscar.
It wasn't Sulma. No.
Lupita.
Oh, Lupita. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Gorgeous.
What's her last name? Lupita Nyong'o.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was so telling because Essence magazine had a big time image award. It wasn't like one of the TV ones. It was something a little more low key, but and basically she's given this award. It's in a smaller, more intimate setting, maybe 500 people or something, and she's given this award in front of, I mean, you know, a couple hundred of the most successful, well-recognized Black women in the United States. Oprah, Angela Bassett, they're all sitting there, right? And I mean, it's a very high-end sort of event for a very successful Black women. And, you know, obviously part of her appeal and part of her leadership has been around, you know, sort of, you know, just, you know, honoring Black beauty and you know, and she's very natural and she's I mean, the reason she's getting this award is because of that. And they pan into the crowd, and I'm sitting there like, no disrespect, but every woman here has either has has fake hair, fake eyelashes, blue eyes, you know what I mean, the skin lightener, you know, blonde hair, you know, and it's just like, but you could see the looks on their faces because that they admired this woman so much for having that bravery, even though they're very successful, they're keeping it real, whatever. So it's something that it's such a big part of our lives. And you know, it's also an economic issue because, and you all are very aware of this, but that, you know, Black women spend such a disproportionate amount of money, you know, basically hiding who they are and hiding what their hair looks like and hiding their features. And it's just, you know, so it really becomes a bottom line issue as well, beyond just and Tatiana says, oh, yes, to that one. So Tati understands the budget. Raquel, I wanted to give you a chance to ask any questions you may have for Zulma.
You know, one of the things I actually wanted to make a comment to Zulma is that one of the things that really intrigued me about coming to the show tonight is because I saw your book as a potential resource, not just for existing parents, but for parents to be. And this is why I know of people that I've had to have a few intense conversations with, interracial couples who are expecting, and the mother's not a person of color, you know, and I've overheard them say things like, oh, well, I hope I don't have a girl because then I'm going to have to deal with all this bad, you know.
Or I hope her hair is like mine, and I've heard that too.
In front of me,
oh yeah.
And you know, I've had to like turn around and correct them. And granted, you know, these are people that I'm friendly with and have a, you know, friendship with, and they can't understand when I corrected them. I'm like, I need you to understand that, you know, this is not just a you attitude. Your child is going to hear this, and you're going to bring another child into the world thinking something is wrong with them. Yeah. And, you know, I even had to take them back as far as slavery to remind them that, you know, that's what the terminology a lot of slave masters use to try to make us compete with each other, make us feel like one is better off, even though we're all in the field together. You know what I'm saying? So it took a lot of like reminding them of where all that comes from for them to be like, okay, I'm going to pay attention to what you're saying. I'm going to try to be conscious of it. But it was very scary to me that attitude is still going on in 2016. So when I saw the book, I'm like, you know what? This is going to be a baby shower gift for at least 3 couples that I know of.
Yeah.
You know, it's sad that I have to go there, but it's so necessary. And you know, and this is
absolutely.
I know I can't imagine what it's like all around the country with people who, you know, it's not to say that they are intending to be racist in any way, but if you really don't know how your words sound and how they affect, you know, nobody corrects you. You know, at least Sulma's book is going to be some kind of resource that they can keep getting a reminder of, yo, you know, this is not cool. This is not, and you know, make that a lifelong commitment to just keep reminding yourself that above all, there is, you know, your child cannot be made any better. They come out the womb perfectly, and you know that's the way they're going to be. But I'm just glad you wrote this book because there's really nothing out there to remind people of that and to keep on, you know, making people know those things. And you know, and I was also going to comment on.
Yeah, no.
And you're right.
No, please.
Go ahead.
That the comment about the whole economics issue, it is still mind-boggling to me how many women of color spend so much money on fake hair, cut off the heads of women in other countries. And it's just like, the money that we spend on that crap, or not me, but the money that our group spends on that, what can we pour that into otherwise? And, this is not a shameless plug, but I'm just going to use real estate as an example. If women stop buying fake hair for a year, they have their down payment down easily. But, nobody wants to talk about that. They want to talk about looking good, and it's just this unfortunate superficial thing that people are stuck on in this country, and they can't get past it and love themselves enough to say, enough is enough. I'm not going to make, some person that doesn't look like me rich so I can look like them. Like, that's just ridiculous. So I'm just hoping that maybe,
that's right. And touch it
as well.
Yeah, I remember when I was, I think I must have been like 12, 13, 14, I used to take a martial arts class, and my sensei would always tell me, Sulma, you're a queen, and you should be treated as such. So when I see these like expecting mothers, I remind them of what they're creating inside of them is either a king or a queen, and they cannot allow their shortcomings,
that's right,
or their ignorant perception of the world affect what they are making and creating inside of them, and I have gotten that conversation about, oh my goodness, what if my daughter's hair, comes out like this? I'm not going to be able to know how to do it. And I said, well, lucky for you, we have a solution called YouTube. Now you can walk through the process and really embark on this adventure with your child. Yes, you may not have had this textured hair, but now you're going to be encouraged to learn something different. And my dad always said, ask, what's the end of education? Well, more education. So it's your job to equip your children with all of the essential tools needed to conquer this world. And if you don't have them, now is the perfect time to start getting them. Do not be lazy when it comes to your child's self-esteem. Do not think, that your words are not going to influence your child. You are the number one teacher. And, we've had to learn how to do all types of hair. When I used to relax my hair, I had to now learn how to do relax hair. Now I have to learn how to do Afro hair. But, it becomes an adventure. And I don't think people should take that as a burden. I just think they should take it as something else to learn that's pretty cool.
Exactly.
Right. I want to jump in on there because I dealt with that this evening in another aspect of our children's lives. So my youngest, it's pretty clear he's going to have his dad's height, which means he's not going to be very tall. And so as I was preparing for the show, the NCAA tournament's on, and there's a University of Miami has a Puerto Rican guy who looks shorter than me, who's a heck of a player. He scored 24 points tonight, and I tell my 4-year-old, I said, Maxwell, he's named after the singer, by the way. I said, Maxwell, you see that little guy on TV? He's like you and me. He ain't the tallest, but he has the heart of a champion. So it's a small thing, but I just know, society, the tallest person is everyone sees as the boss, and everyone else, and and it impacts people's personal feelings about themselves, particularly men, I think, but it's when you're not the tallest guy, but so these are things that we just have to monitor across the board. I'm curious, and so I want to, J City Chick is someone who I'm not as familiar with, not one of our regulars. I want to thank her for joining, and everyone, of course, Vanessa, Felix, and the whole crew that is joining here, Race Talk Show. Zulma, I wanted to ask you, what has been the reaction of schools, libraries, places that you're trying to place this book? I'm curious about the reaction because Raquel's right in the materials you shared with me and I was preparing for the show. There really has not been a book like this. It's incredible, but there really isn't anything out there. So I'm curious, what's been the reaction of the publishing world and education institutions?
It seems like the publishing world is not that ready for it, number one. Schools, I went through to try and get my book in the Department of Education because everyone says this needs to be in every single school. The issue with that is
absolutely
in order to go under the Department of Education as a book, you would have to become a registered vendor. And that has a whole lot of red tapes. So what you have to do is get your book published under an already existing registered vendor. In this particular case, it's Ingram Publishing. So in order for you to even qualify to go under Ingram Publishing to sell to the DOE, you would have to have sold $52,000 worth of book within a 2-year period. Red tape, right?
Okay.
So this is the reason why my book is not in the DOE. But we've recently heard, and this is going to be very, very important, that Barnes & Noble is now an approved vendor for the Department of Education. So what's happening now is that I am currently working with the Barnes & Noble in Park Slope, Brooklyn, right, to create seminars for teachers and principals of schools and the purchasing department to let them know that they are now allowed to order my book because Barnes & Noble just became an approved vendor under the DOE. And this is something that not everybody knows. It's fairly new. It's about a year and change. So we have decided to make Bad Hair Does Not Exist kind of like the pilot program for more diverse books in school. And I think it's going to open a whole lot of doors for existing authors that are writing books that they deem necessary for today's societies and today's, diverse culture. Another thing, there are organizations, and I'm going to be candid with it because it's on email and I have to speak the truth if I want to help somebody else out, right?
Keep it real. That's what Race Talk Show is about. This ain't basic cable.
Right. So there's this organization, I'm going to mention it, Reach Out and Read, for example. I heard about Reach Out and Read through a healthcare company. They said, there's an organization that services 4.5 million kids across the United States from newborn to the age of 5. And they go to low-income communities, predominantly Black and Latinos community, to pretty much get parents and kids into literacy at an early age. And they work directly through the pediatricians. This is a Congress-supported organization. All right. So I sent them my book for review because I thought it'd be an important part of what it is. Number one is repetitive language, super easy. My 3-year-old daughter learned to read with it, literally. So what they came back to me was, we cannot accept your book. So I asked them, listen, I do fundraiser events for a living. Do you need me to donate it to you? Should I get it subsidized? Should we create an event? All I want to do is make sure that the kids you serve get this very important book because you serve the Black and Latino. So what they came back with is, Sulma, we are so sorry. We just don't accept books with messages. Period. We don't accept books with messages. So a lot of people say, what kind of message? What is the book sending? Did they even read the book? I don't know. What kind of message? Strong?
Yeah, self-love. Yeah.
Love?
Positive?
Positive? So these are the type of, but these organizations are not Black-owned organizations, nor are they Latino-owned organizations. However, they serve our children, right? So these are the kind of barriers that I'm facing. But media is great, right? So my books are still moving. I'm working with different nonprofit organizations. I'll be doing an event April 30th with a great organization called Girl Talks. I'll be sharing the stage with Steve Harvey's daughters, with producers of Black Girls Rock.
That's going to be a big stage. Yeah, he's got a lot of kids.
Yeah.
A lot of chairs.
I've hand delivered this book, okay, to, I'm going to be candid, right? They know, to Shirlane McCray, which is the First Lady of New York. And she basically said to me, she sent her people to say to me, at this point, we can't do anything with the book because what we're tackling on is mental health. And I said, mental health, like health.
Because you're not educating kids all the time.
The interesting thing is that I got invited by a center, Northeast Mental Health, like Children's Alliance, that I'm going to be doing an event with. And when you go to their website, they have a picture with Shirlane McCray because she supports this kids' organization that has to do with mental health. I'll be really honest. Lisa Price of Carol's daughter. Yes, she got my book. Why? Because I hand delivered it to her. But at that point, I guess it got bought off by L'Oreal, so she couldn't really do anything. with the book. I've tried to get meetings with like the hair product company. To make a long story short, you're right. It is $1 billion hair business. And I don't understand why these products keep pushing products to us without giving us something empowering. So it's important for them, for us to become ignorant, to stay ignorant while they keep pushing products. But I've came across a wonderful, wonderful person by the name of Miko Branch from Miss Jessie's. They are willing to do something with the book, not just push the product, but empower in the process. And I said, you know what? This is worth continuing to explore. This is one particular product that believes in empowering people, not just pushing products. So, so I'm definitely in. But these are a lot of the barriers that I'm sharing with you that I do have to, that I've been dealing with. And again, the fact that I'm getting surpassed all of these is to let you know that this is truly an ordained body of work.
Absolutely, Sulma.
Is God, and He's pushing this through.
Absolutely. I just wanted to reset the table. We've got some new people watching on the live stream. This is your virtual big brother, Ray Collazo, and Durham Skyrider, and a few other folks here, J City Chick, and some others. Thank you so much for joining us. We're interviewing author, activist. Let me tell you something. Sulma is a big time New Yorker before the book. Very well known and established. Been featured on Anthony Bourdain's show on CNN for her community in the Bronx. There, Arzu-Brown and a great friend to the show, Raquel Mangual, talking about Zulma's new book, Bad Hair Does Not Exist, Pelo Malo No Existe, which is an incredible children's book that she wrote, really to show her daughters that we have to love everything about us, and their hair is beautiful, and everything about their background is wonderful. So I think we've got some writers in the building. There's been some great chats, and they go by so fast, but there's definitely some advice and some tips. And I think Sulma, some people you might be able to collaborate with. So definitely we'll definitely shout out your how to find you before the show's over so people can collaborate. We do have a fourth chair open. And in this last few questions, we did want to dive a little bit more into the publishing part element, because we've got writers, we've got we've got a lot of artists, content creators that are part of this community, and I'm sure they're curious about this. So Sulma, you've kind of gone on the right journey, but I did want to take a quick step back for people that may be listening to this on the replay or on audio. If someone's out there that has a vision, has a message, and is thinking about writing either a children's book or just trying to get a book out, share this story. What is your advice? What's the first step for them to begin that process from your perspective?
Write the book. I have a lot of people coming to me with, I have an idea, right, for a book. What do you think? And I think when you overthink things, it never really gets done, or it takes a longer period of time. But surround yourself by great people. I mean, I could only speak to my experience, to be honest with you. The book took me 5 minutes to write. It's been in my heart for that long, I guess. I have my best friend, Isidra Savio, who's from Afro-Latin Publishing, and she's an illustrator. She's the only illustrator I knew. So when I read her the book over the phone,
that's great. Yeah, fellow Hondureña. I'm so glad I wanted to make sure we shouted Isidra out.
Absolutely. And she had her own publishing company, Afro-Latin Publishing, and she does greeting cards in our image, but she's also the first person that's ever written a children's book directed to teach kids about the Garifuna history, and is now with the Board of Education in Honduras as well. She's a scientist by trade, by the way. And she took it on under her publishing company. We had a mutual agreement, and I'll be very candid with it. It's a 50-50, right? But then I realized after the book was done, there was a lot more work to do. So after having very candid conversation that had to do with, trust me, let me do this. So what I did was I purchased all of the rights to the book from my best friend. We came to an amicable agreement, and the agreement, the first part of the agreement was this agreement will not destroy our friendship, nor the love that we have for each other. And, I paid her, she blessed it, and now I own all the rights to the book, and I'm pushing it, and I'm also the director of operations for the New York City Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
That's how we worked together before.
So I get to go to a whole lot of events and meet new people, but the chamber is a resource, and people within the chamber use this resource, and we encourage new members to also utilize the resources within. So I came across this man during a Macy's diversity event, and I asked myself, ¿Y este gringo qué hace aquí? Like, what's this white guy doing here? So, and why am I standing next to the only white guy in this whole entire room? But, I have to talk to people. That's part of my job. So I don't know what spiel I gave him or what elevator speech. He was like, you know what? I'm interested in learning more about your book. And I said, my book, but I'm with the chamber, right? I hate mixing the two. But he sent me an email. Yeah, he sent me an email, and he told me that, he was the producer for for the Anderson Cooper show, but he also writes, here and there for Latin Trend magazine. And he's asked me if it's okay that he send me some question and answers for Latin Trend magazine. And I'm like, all right, sure. I had no idea that by the time this article came out, it would be a 2-page color spread on a Garifuna woman. So he really, put me on the map for this. After that, he kept introducing me to people, and I kept meeting more people, and I, keep speaking to more people. To make a long story short, that's how I ended up in NBC, HuffPost, Latina.com, Heart and Soul in May, Black Enterprise Magazine. And, it just kept going and growing from there. But the book came out in October of 2014. I will be very honest. I went through the whole Create Space system, which is how we see that published her books, and she researches everything. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. If that's how she does it, I'm going to do it the exact same way. Cost effective, print on demand. I don't have to order a gazillion books and keep them in my basement because I'm cheap and I'm not going to spend $3,000 that I don't have. And
Raquel saying amen. You got to be business exactly. First, girl. Business first. And look, and nowadays with the modern tools, you don't have to, especially in the publishing game. It's digital. I don't know if you have it on the Kindle platform, but J City Chick is saying, repeat what you did again, and you have to be smart about it. Nowadays, the publishing world, you can definitely
and then my husband just wanted to. My husband is very savvy when it comes to budget, and the agreement was this book has to pay for itself. So there's no way that I can go into my family's cookie jar, right, and transfer funds to the book. It wasn't going to happen. Yeah, so I had to make sure I did everything possible to sell the books. So what happened? The books weren't moving. I didn't really have an online platform. So I had to create my events based on my fundraiser experiences, right? So what I did was I spoke to Barnes & Noble on 86th and 3rd. I presented the idea, and all they wanted to know was, how will people purchase books through Barnes & Noble, right? And how many people are you trying to bring here? So I immediately knew that I knew the, director of community affairs from Phipps Neighborhoods in the Bronx, Rosemary Jenkins, who's also a Garifuna. And I told her what I plan to do. And she goes, let's make it a trip for 500 summer campers. I'm like, what? Yeah. She goes, I'm going to partner with the Children's Aid Society and South Bronx Rising and make sure that 500 summer campers visit the Barnes & Noble while you're there. I told that to Barnes & Noble, and I said, I will guarantee you 500 books in sales. So what does Sulma have to do? Go knock on doors of businesses in my community and ask them, can you donate 50 books? Can you donate 100 books? So with the money that they gave, I was able to purchase the 500 books through Barnes & Noble and guaranteed the 500 kids. One of those was I was very nervous about because it was the one session that was open to the public, and I couldn't believe it. Standing room only, and these were the nannies in the Upper East Side bringing the kids, the black nannies, bringing the white little kids, to the book signing, which is important to learn this for cultural sensitivity purposes, so that we never have to deal with the whole Oscar thing that Jada's dealing with, right? And and that's what happened.
Hello.
But it wasn't until February.
Well, Jada's dealing with a lot.
It wasn't until February of 2016 when NBC Black dropped that article on me. Mind you, that article was written 4 months prior. They just kept telling me it was evergreen, it was evergreen, it was evergreen. So after they dropped the article, HuffPost started following me on Twitter. And once they follow you on Twitter, you can message, send a private message to them. 30 seconds later, thank you so much, I would love to send you a book. 2 hours later, they send me an agreement asking if they can share the story throughout all of their resources. In a matter of 4 weeks, I'm almost up to like 600 in sales online. And I'll be very candid. Prior to that, I was doing maybe between 2 and 8 sales a month.
Wow.
All right. Unless I create the event for myself.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Well, Sulma, this is one of the things we're going to commit to is you and I need to have a conversation. And if we got a couple of people that Tatiana, we got some people that are in the publishing game. We have a woman, Durham Skywriter, that's watching, that has her own newspaper in North Carolina. So Durham would love to have, we have a growing Latino population there. So we have Blacks and Latinos interacting, marrying there. There's these kind of issues are starting to resonate in those communities. And with that, you'll be on Latino Connection magazine. So look, we're already booking you some appearances, so we definitely have to strategize how we can help spread this message. It is a little late on the East Coast, so I want to respect Zulma's time, so I want to start wrapping up the taped version of the show, but I did want to ask, thank you, Felix. Raquel, do you have any last questions or comments for our very special guest, Sulma Arzu-Brown?
I do have a question for Sulma. I want to know what the next title is and when that one is going to be released.
Oh, well, I'll give you a sneak peek. This is right now. This is the proof, literally. And the next book is called My Best Friend Likes Boys More Than Me. And the reason why, and this was inspired by my 11-year-old, actually then 10-year-old step-up grad ceremony. And the reason being is because she goes to an all-girls charter school. So I said, oh my goodness, they're about to go to 6th grade. And this is really the time where you start seeing who's going to be the boy crazy one and who's going to be the sane one. And I said, how am I going to talk to her about this? And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to write a book because it'll help other parents, really talk to their children about the birds and the bees by literally giving them the power in their own hands. And this is actually Helen right here. And this is Aisha. The illustrator of the book is Ketty Bunch. And she sent me a message via Facebook Messenger because she's an illustrator in Toulouse, France. And this is her first project in the US market. And the reason why the girls are called Helen and Aisha was because after Ketty finished the illustration, she asked me, Sulma, what are the names of the girls? And I said, I don't know. I've never named any of my characters, right? And when I looked at the girls, they looked exactly like my best friend, Aisha, and my best friend, Helen, who both passed away in the World Trade Center. And these two girls were actually super wise, and they were my voice of reason when I got boy crazy. So it's a really nice tribute book. It's loving, it's fun, and it's best friends helping each other out through tough times. So when your grades are low, your best friend will be there to study with you. Will say, hey, get it. Let's get the focus back. And even towards the end of the book, they both graduate really happy. So it's definitely a must read. It's for the middle schoolers, the preteens, but I think even some grown women are still a little bit boy crazy, and they need to get their priorities right.
Yeah. Right here.
It's a shame we don't know any. I was ready to say I don't know anyone like that.
So it's really cool. And the goal is to definitely have more images that are reflective of the diversity around us. This is actually, unlike Bad Hair Does Not Exist, this book has images of boys, which are a lot of parents were asking me, like, where are the boys? How do I teach my boys? And so it's I'm really proud of this one. It was really fun to do. It does have a follow-up. Bad Hair Does Not Exist does have a follow-up, but I gotta pay Cedra, so I gotta make more money. I wanted to have demonstrations,
Art, how are you? Yeah, no, and Zulma, I'm so happy that we brought you this platform because we've got some just incredible, some of the warmest and most giving people on the Black platform. Art Jones is just visiting us. You talk about a heavy cat. I mean, that guy, he shares a lot of knowledge on this platform and in his coaching career. Again, Durham Skyrider, Tatiana, so many great people watching. Of course, Vanessa, Felix, the family is always providing, and there's been so much good collaboration, links of different things, different sort of related topics on the side here. So I always love the only thing as good as interviewing the guests is keeping one eye on the chat, because there's always a lot of great conversation and collaboration on there. So Sulma, you've got some family here that are not just going to spread it. I know you're hardcore New Yorker, but we got to get this book to all other parts of the country. And I think particularly for these communities where the Latino community is newer, in the South and the Midwest, I think this will be very provocative because now we're starting to have, Black Mexican kids in the South and, and these different combinations. So these are, in some of these communities, these are new topics and new conversations.
I didn't know that. So that's very important. And let me tell you, I want to not only take this message nationwide, but even to my Afro-Latino community,
absolutely.
My Afro-Brasileños. I want to even take this to Spain and all of Central and South America. Of course, the parts of Africa as well, to definitely let them know that bad hair does not exist. Number one, and it's nothing against any other type of hair. It's just that if you're going to do anything different to your hair, at least know who you are first. And don't make decisions based on what media is telling you should look like. You make a conscious decision on what you know yourself to be.
Absolutely. Raquel, why don't you, we're going to give Zulma the last word again. I'm not going anywhere. We can certainly continue the conversation, but Zulma, again, I just want to finish taping the show, because if you have to step away, that's totally understandable. Raquel, for the podcast listeners, people watching the replay, let people know where they can find you in social media and what you do. You certainly have some services to market as well.
I'm definitely on Facebook. Just under my regular name, Raquel Mangual. I think you guys can all see how it's spelled, like on the screen. You can also visit my personal real estate blog, which is raquelsellphillyhomes.com. And that's my blog that I write myself with, because my focus is on helping people who are in foreclosure and doing short sales. And then the website for my company, because I'm also the broker owner of my real estate brokerage. The name of it is Superior Real Estate Philadelphia. And you can check out all our services and the properties we have available at superiorhomesphiladelphia.com.
Nice.
Oh, and we're also...
That's fantastic.
One more thing, I'm sorry, we're all fluent in Spanish.
No, please.
Le podemos ayudar en español también.
Absolutely. No, and we definitely got to keep you and Zulma connected and collaborating. The Raquel, next Thursday, our associate producer has to double confirm this, but it looks like we're going to have Cindy Rangel, who's a realtor in Chicago, on the show. And we're you got to be on the show next week, because we're going to talk about how realtors use social media for marketing, periscoping, this platform. That's going to be the focus of the show next week. So how business owners, solopreneurs can use these tools. So, and Cindy's a great member of the community as well. So Zulma, again, just for the podcast listeners, before we sign off on the recording of the show, please let people know where they can purchase the book online and where they can find you on social media to continue to collaborate with Sulma Arzu-Brown?
Absolutely. You could definitely find me at www.badhairdoesnotexist.com. I'm also on Facebook as Bad Hair Does Not Exist. Or you can also, Google Bad Hair Does Not Exist. And I think I pretty much own the whole space, even in español, Pelo Malo No Existe. The book is available in bilingual. And even if you cannot relate to this issue, know that this is an issue that pretty much every woman can relate to. If you know a school that you live nearby, purchase the book, donate it to the school. Just know that you'll be making a difference in somebody's lives. And if you know a little girl who you think is not Black, well, you know what? Definitely buy her the book. It's going to help with cultural sensitivity. And it's also, going to help her get along with all the other diverse community around her. I remember every so often I walk around with the book, and when I get inspired to give one, I do. And I saw this father and daughter interacting on the train, and the daughter had long blonde hair and blue eyes. The father was Caucasian, and they were getting along so well. And I said, you know what, if you don't mind, is it okay if I gift this book to your daughter? And 2 weeks later, I get an email saying, Sulma, thank you so much for this book. We read it with our daughter, and it was a really great book to really teach about the diversity of the world around us. Even though we do not deal with this situation in our community, we were able to now teach about other communities to our daughter. And they signed it, your Mexican friends. So that family happened to be from Mexico, and they appreciated it. So definitely, please pick up the book. You'll definitely be helping not just yourself, but somebody else. www.badhairdoesnotexist.com. And I'm also available to come out. You'll get all that information on how to contact my public relations, Michelle Sampson. She's the most amazing thing on the face of this earth, and I can definitely go nationwide.
Absolutely, Sulma, and I would encourage you, and again, encourage definitely the people watching the show live here on Blab to connect with Sulma, because we have a few other podcast Blab hosts on here, Sulma, that I think you would definitely be a great guest to be on some of their programs as well. And Sulma, there's no reason why I think you should be doing, you could definitely use this platform in very creative ways to have sessions with teachers, educators, Afro-Latino intellectuals that are engaged in these conversations. So I think this is a great platform for you, Sulma, to get out of New York City and spread your wings, because this is really a national and international conversation. So, and that's what Blab's all about. And, so many of these people that we met just in the last few months on Blab. So this is definitely a great topic. And Sulma, I admired you so much before I knew you were an author. And when I saw you promoting this book, I said, I want to definitely have this conversation with Sulma, do whatever I can to promote this. And, these are the conversations that, as I like to say, you're not going to get on basic cable. I mean, we have to use these platforms to have these real conversations and break out of these mental cages that we're in, because we just got to soar, do our damn thing. There's so much we can be doing. And again, I just want to thank Sulma Arzu-Brown, of course, and my co-host Raquel Mangual today. You've been watching and listening to Ray's Talk Show on Blab. Thank you so much for joining us. If you like what you heard, definitely check out Blab every Tuesday and Thursday night live, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, as well as download and subscribe to Ray's podcast. Sulma, I've done over 210 episodes of the podcast. And so you got to catch up. You got to subscribe to Ray's podcast on iTunes. We've had many conversations about the intersections of the Black and Latino community. And everything from Renee from Calle 13 to business hustlers and business people and people with great messages like Raquel and Felix and Donna and Vanessa and all these other folks that are here in person. So definitely check it out. And I would ask if you could spread the word in your network to not only the video version of the show, but the podcast. And definitely would love to get your take on other guests we could have that you collaborate with in New York City and around the country. Thank you again so much for joining the podcast and Blab, and have a wonderful day.